The sound of metal biting earth at midnight should have been impossible. But there it was, rhythmic and deliberate, cutting through the desert silence like a prayer turned violent. Samuel Hawthorne had been checking his horses when the soft scraping drifted across the valley, carried on wind that tasted of sage and secrets. He'd learned to trust his instincts in the 2 years since Martha's fever took her, leaving him to raise 7-year-old Lucy alone on the failing ranch. Those instincts now screamed danger that he moved through the moonlight like smoke. Winchester, cradled in calloused hands that knew both gentleness and violence. The sound led him beyond his property line, past the old cottonwoods where coyotes sang their hungry songs, to the abandoned cemetery where pioneers had buried their dreams alongside their dead. What he found there stopped his breath. That a young woman, in a nun's habit, worked alone among the weathered headstones, her small hands wielding a shovel with surprising strength. Dirt flew in steady arcs, catching silver light as it scattered. She couldn't have been more than 25, with wisps of dark hair escaping her wimple and sweat gleaming on her brow despite the cool night air. Samuel stepped closer, boots silent on the hardpan. The grave she dug was perfectly rectangular, precise as a preacher's sermon. Her movements held the measured rhythm of someone who'd done this before, but nuns didn't dig graves. Not alone. Not at midnight. Sister. She spun like a startled doe, shovel raised as a weapon. In the moonlight, her face was all sharp angles and shadows, beautiful in the way desert storms were beautiful, dangerous and unpredictable. You shouldn't be here, she whispered, voice carrying the faint trace of an accent he couldn't place. Irish, maybe, or something older. Neither should you. Samuel kept his rifle lowered but ready. This is sacred ground. A bitter laugh escaped her lips. Sacred. She tasted the word like poison. Nothing about this place is sacred anymore. The grave was already 3 feet deep, walls straight as a coffin's corners. You can almost smell the desperation in the turned earth, the way it released secrets buried too long. Samuel had dug enough graves to know the work of someone who understood death intimately. Whose grave is it? He asked. She met his eyes then, and he saw something there that made his chest tighten. Not fear, resignation. The look of a woman who'd already said her goodbyes. It's for me. The words hung in the air like a curse. Samuel felt the world tilt, the way it had when the doctor told him Martha wouldn't see another sunrise. But this was different. This was a choice. Ma'am, I don't know what troubles you're carrying, but you don't understand. She turned back to her work, dirt flying faster now, more frantic. I have 3 days, maybe less. When they find me, this is where I want to rest. Who's looking for you? Silence stretched between them, filled only by the whisper of steel through soil and the distant howl of something wild. Samuel studied her profile, noting the way her jaw clenched with each throw of dirt, the white-knuckled grip on the shovel handle. This wasn't madness. This was preparation. Sister, what's your name? She paused, considering. Catherine. Sister Catherine Moreau. Well, Sister Catherine, I'm Samuel Hawthorne. I own the spread just over that ridge. He gestured toward his ranch, where lamplight flickered in Lucy's bedroom window. And I'm not leaving you to dig your own grave. You don't have a choice in this matter. Like hell I don't. The words came out harder than he intended, carrying 2 years of grief and frustration. I've buried enough good people to know when someone's giving up too easy. Catherine's shovel struck something solid with a metallic clang. Both of them froze. In the silence that followed, Samuel heard his own heartbeat, loud as thunder in his ears. She knelt, brushing dirt away with trembling fingers. A small metal box emerged from the earth, its surface green with age and weather. Catherine lifted it like she was handling a snake, her face gone pale as moonlight. This shouldn't be here, she whispered. What is it? Proof. Her voice cracked. Proof that I'm not the woman they think I am. Samuel watched her cradle the box against her chest, rocking slightly. Whatever demons chased her, they were real. Enough to make her dig her own grave. Real enough to make her believe she deserved to lie in it. I had a daughter once, she said suddenly. Before the convent. Before the vows. Before I learned that some sins follow you no matter how far you run. The wind picked up, rustling through the cemetery's scrub grass with a sound like whispered prayers. Samuel thought of Lucy, sleeping safe in her bed, trusting him to keep the darkness at bay. He thought of Martha, who'd made him promise to always help those who couldn't help themselves. Everyone's got sins, sister. Don't make yours Lucy's problem. Lucy, my daughter. She's 7. Lost her mother to fever 2 years back. Samuel stepped closer, close enough to see the tears tracking down Catherine's dust-stained cheeks. She still asks when Mama's coming home. I tell her Mama's watching over us. But truth is, some days I wonder if the dead can see how badly we're managing without them. Catherine's grip on the box tightened. You think I'm managing? I think you're breathing. That's something. A horse whinnied in the distance, followed by the sound of hooves on stone. Catherine's head snapped up, eyes wide with terror that made Samuel's blood run cold. They're here, she breathed. Who? But she was already moving, pressing the metal box into his hands. Take this. Hide it. Don't let them find it, no matter what happens to me. Sister, promise me. Her fingers dug into his wrists with surprising strength. Promise me you'll keep it safe. The hoofbeats grew closer, accompanied by the jingle of spurs and the low murmur of men's voices. Samuel counted at least 3 riders, maybe more. In the moonlight, he could see the glint of metal, guns, badges, or both. I promise, he whispered. Catherine nodded once, then stepped back into the grave she'd dug. The earth came up to her waist, making her look like she was already half buried. She raised her hands in surrender, but her eyes stayed fixed on Samuel's face. Remember me as someone who tried to do right, even when everything went wrong. The riders crested the hill, their horses' hooves striking sparks from the rocky ground. Samuel slipped the box inside his coat and melted back into the shadows, his heart hammering against his ribs. But as the men approached the cemetery, their leader's voice carried clearly through the night air. Well, Sister Catherine Morrow, we've been looking for you for a very long time. The leader sat his horse like a man born to the saddle, but there was something wrong in the way he held himself. Too straight, too careful, like he was performing authority rather than wielding it. His badge caught the moonlight, but Samuel had seen enough tin stars to know real from false, and this one sang the wrong song. Marshal Crane, Catherine said, her voice steady despite the way her hands shook. I wondered when you'd find me. 3 weeks we've been tracking you across 2 territories. Crane dismounted with theatrical precision, his spurs chiming a death march against the stones. Cost me good men and better horses. You've led us quite a chase, sister. From his hiding place behind a weathered headstone, Samuel studied the other riders. 2 wore the dusty garb of bounty hunters, all leather and metal and hungry eyes. The third was different, younger, cleaner, with the soft look of someone who'd never missed a meal or slept on hard ground. I told you in Santa Fe, Catherine said. I don't have what you're looking for. Now, sister, we both know that's not entirely true. Crane's smile was all teeth and no warmth. See, I've been doing some investigating. Turns out there's quite a story about a certain nun who disappeared from the convent of Sacred Heart with something that didn't belong to her. The metal box seemed to burn against Samuel's ribs. Whatever Catherine had stolen, it was worth enough to bring armed men hunting across desert and mountain. Worth enough to make a woman of God dig her own grave. Father Miguel is dead, Catherine said quietly. Whatever he told you died with him. Ah, but that's where you're wrong. Crane pulled a folded paper from his vest. Seems the good father left quite a detailed confession before he met his unfortunate end. Amazing what a man will write when he's trying to save his soul. Samuel saw Catherine's face crumble, just for a moment, before she rebuilt her composure like a wall of stone. Miguel was a good man. Miguel was a thief. Just like you. Crane's voice hardened. And thieves hang, sister. Even ones wearing habits. I never stole anything. No. Crane stepped closer to the grave, his boots crushing dried flowers someone had left decades ago. Then where's the San Miguel treasure? 40 years of silver and gold, meant for the church, and it vanishes the same night you disappear. Curious coincidence. The San Miguel treasure. Samuel had heard whispers of it in saloons and trading posts. A fortune in precious metals that Spanish missionaries had hidden somewhere in the territory before the war. Most folks figured it was just another desert legend, like the ghost horses or the weeping woman of the arroyos. You're chasing ghosts, Marshal. Am I? Crane's hand moved to his gun. Then you won't mind if we search you. And that grave you've been so industriously digging. Catherine's eyes flicked toward Samuel's hiding place for just an instant. There's nothing here but dirt and bones. We'll see about that. Crane gestured to his men. Boys, help the sister out of her hole. Time we had ourselves a proper conversation. The bounty hunters moved forward, but Catherine raised her shovel like a weapon. Stay back. Now, sister, that's no way for a bride of Christ to behave. Crane's laugh was like breaking glass. Put down the shovel and come quiet. We'll make this easy on you. Nothing about this has been easy. Samuel watched Catherine's face. In the moonlight, saw the moment she made her decision. She wasn't going to surrender. Not to these men, not after whatever she'd already endured. The shovel trembled in her grip, but her voice stayed steady. I know what you did to the other sisters, she said. I know about Maria and Isabel. About what you did to them before you killed them. Crane's smile faltered. Now that's a serious accusation. They trusted you. They believed you were really a marshal, that you were there to protect them from the Apache raids. Catherine's voice grew stronger, fed by righteous anger. They died because they tried to help you find what you were looking for. They died because they lied to me. Just like you're lying now. I'm not lying. Catherine stepped up onto the grave's edge, still holding the shovel. I'm just done running. Samuel felt the moment crystallize around them, the way desert air shimmers before a storm. Catherine was going to fight, and these men were going to kill her. He thought of Lucy, asleep in her bed, and of Martha, who'd made him promise to always do right by those who couldn't protect themselves. The choice, when it came, felt like stepping off a cliff. That's far enough, Samuel said, rising from behind. The headstone with his Winchester trained on Crane's chest point, 4 guns swiveled toward him. But Samuel had the advantage of position and darkness. Easy now. Nobody needs to die tonight. Well. Crane's composure cracked, revealing something uglier underneath. The cavalry arrives. And who might you be, friend? Someone who doesn't like the odds. Samuel kept his rifle steady. 4 men against 1 woman. That's poor mathematics, even for claim jumpers. Claim jumpers. Crane laughed, but there was no humor in it. Friend, I'm a United States Marshal conducting official business. Funny thing about that badge, Samuel said. I've seen its like before. Bought it off a tinker in Tucson for 2 bits and a bottle of whiskey. The younger man shifted nervously in his saddle. Marshal, maybe we should. Shut up, Tommy. Crane's hand tightened on his gun. This doesn't concern you, stranger. Ride away now, and we'll forget you were here. Can't do that. Samuel's voice carried the quiet authority of a man who'd faced down cattle thieves and Apache raiders. See, this is my land you're on. That makes it my business. Your land. Crane glanced around at the cemetery, calculation flickering in his eyes. This is government property. Was. Territory sold it to me last month for back taxes. Samuel was lying, but he sold it with the confidence of a man who'd bluffed his way through 3 years of drought and failed crops. Got the deed in my saddlebags. Catherine was watching him with something like wonder, as if she couldn't believe someone would stand between her and these men. In the moonlight, she looked like an avenging angel, terrible and beautiful and utterly alone. You're making a mistake, Crane said. This woman is wanted for murder and theft. She's dangerous. So am I. Samuel shifted his aim to the bounty hunter reaching for his gun. Ask anyone in Salvation Creek. They'll tell you about the time I held off 6 Comanche warriors with nothing but a rusty Colt and pure stubbornness. You're outnumbered. Am I? Samuel smiled, cold as winter wind. Tell me, Marshal, how many men did you lose tracking 1 woman across 2 territories? Crane's face went still. What did you say? I said you lost men. Question is, how many more are you willing to lose for whatever's in that box? The words hung in the air like a challenge. Samuel saw realization dawn in Crane's eyes, the understanding that his quarry wasn't as helpless as he'd believed. But before anyone could move, a child's voice called out through the darkness. Papa? Papa, where are you? Lucy. Samuel's blood turned to ice as his daughter's small figure appeared at the cemetery's edge, clutching her rag doll and squinting into the shadows. Papa, I heard the bad men again. Are they coming to take you away like they took Mama? The world stopped breathing. Lucy stood silhouetted against the moonlight, her small voice carrying across the cemetery like a death sentence. Samuel felt his heart shatter and reassemble itself in the space of a heartbeat. every protective instinct screaming at him to get between his daughter and the guns. "Well, now," Crane said, his voice silk over steel. "Looks like we have ourselves a complication. Lucy, baby, go back to the house." Samuel kept his rifle trained on Crane while his soul broke watching his daughter's confused face. "Go back. To bed. Papa will be there soon." "But Papa, the bad men." "There are no bad men, sweetheart. Just Papa talking to some travelers." Samuel's voice stayed steady through sheer force of will. "Remember what Mama used to say? Good girls listen to their papas." Lucy hesitated, clutching her doll tighter. In the moonlight, she looked so much like Martha that Samuel's chest constricted. The same dark hair, the same trusting eyes that saw goodness in everyone. "That's a mighty fine little girl you got there," Crane said, his hand moving slowly toward his gun. "Be a shame if something happened to her." The words hit Samuel like a physical blow. He'd faced down rustlers and Indians, drought and disease, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. Watching his daughter become a pawn in someone else's game. "You touch her, and I'll kill you," Samuel said, each word carved from granite. Now, no need for threats." Crane's smile was a predator's grin. "We're all civilized men here. Why don't you put down that rifle, and we'll discuss this like gentlemen." Catherine stepped forward, still holding her shovel. "Let the child go. Your business is with me." "Sister, you're in no position to make demands." Crane's eyes never left Samuel's face. "But I am a reasonable man. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell me where the San Miguel treasure is hidden, and in exchange, I'll let the pretty little girl walk away. I don't know where it is. Then you're going to figure it out real quick." Crane nodded to Tommy, who dismounted and started walking toward Lucy. "Because if you don't, that little angel is going to learn what happens to families who get in my way." Samuel's finger tightened on the trigger, but Tommy was already too close to Lucy. One shot, and the boy might grab her, might hurt her. The calculation ran through his mind like wildfire. 4 men, 1 rifle, and his daughter standing in the line of fire. "Papa." Lucy's voice was small, frightened. "I'm scared." "Don't be scared, baby. Everything's going to be fine." Samuel's voice cracked on the lie. Nothing was going to be fine. Not unless he did something desperate. "Actually," Catherine said quietly, "I think it's time you all knew the truth." She reached up with trembling hands and pulled off her wimple, letting her dark hair cascade down her shoulders. In the moonlight, she looked younger, more vulnerable, but also more dangerous somehow. "My name isn't Catherine Moreau," she said. "It's Catherine Valdez. And I'm not a nun." The silence stretched taut as a hangman's rope. Samuel stared at her, understanding dawning like a cold sunrise. The accent he couldn't place, the way she handled the shovel like a weapon, the desperate flight across 2 territories, it all made terrible sense now. "Jesus Christ," one of the bounty hunters whispered. "You're Miguel Valdez's daughter." "I am." Catherine's voice carried the weight of old pain. "He was my father. And the San Miguel treasure you're all so desperate to find. It never existed." Crane's composure cracked. "That's impossible." The confession was a lie. Catherine's eyes blazed with fury. "My father died protecting people like you from the truth. He created that story to keep men like you from tearing apart every church and convent in the territory." "You're lying." "Am I?" Catherine reached into her habit and pulled out a small, leather-bound journal. "This is my father's real confession. The one he wrote before you tortured him to death. The one that tells the truth about what happened to the mission's gold." Samuel watched the men's faces change as the implications sank in. If there was no treasure, then they'd killed for nothing. Chased a ghost across desert and mountain, left bodies in their wake, all for a legend that never existed. "The gold was spent," Catherine continued. "Every piece of it. Feeding the poor, building schools, providing medicine during the cholera outbreak of '52. My father documented every transaction, every life saved with that money. There's nothing left to find." "But the box," Crane said desperately. "The box you buried contains my father's journal and his rosary. The only treasure left from the San Miguel mission." Catherine's voice broke. "The only thing I have left of him." The metal box pressed against Samuel's ribs like a brand. He thought of Catherine's hands as she'd given it to him, the way she'd made him promise to keep it safe. Not a treasure map, a memorial. "You killed my father for nothing," Catherine said. "Murdered innocent women for nothing. And now you're threatening a child for nothing." Tommy had stopped walking toward Lucy, confusion written across his young face. "Marshall, if there's no treasure, shut up," Crane snarled. "She's lying. Has to be lying. Read the journal," Catherine said. "Every entry is dated, every expenditure recorded. My father was a meticulous man. He believed in accountability, even when it came to God's work." Samuel saw the moment Crane's certainty crumbled. The man's face went through a dozen emotions: rage, disbelief, and finally, a terrible understanding. He'd built his plans on sand, and now the whole structure was collapsing. "Even if that's true," Crane said slowly, "you still cost me 3 good men. That debt needs paying." "Then take it out on me," Catherine said. "Leave the child alone." "Oh, I intend to." Crane's hand moved to his gun. "But first, I want to see this miraculous journal. Tommy, bring me the girl." "No," Samuel said. But Tommy was already moving, his own gun drawn now, pointed at Lucy's small form. "Papa!" Lucy cried, finally understanding the danger she was in. Samuel's world narrowed to a single point of absolute clarity. He could shoot Crane, but Tommy would hurt Lucy. He could shoot Tommy, but Crane would kill them all. There was no good choice. No clean solution, only desperate measures. "Catherine," he said quietly, "when I give the word, you take Lucy and run for the trees." "Samuel, no, promise me." She met his eyes across the cemetery, and he saw her understand what he meant to do. The same look Martha had given him when she'd made him promise to take care of Lucy no matter what. "I promise," she whispered. Samuel took a deep breath, tasting sage and gunpowder on the wind. In the distance, coyotes howled their ancient songs. And somewhere in the darkness, an owl called out a warning that no one would heed. "Lucy," he said softly, "when Papa says run, you run to the nice lady and don't look back." "Papa, I'm scared." "I know, baby. But sometimes being brave means being scared and doing the right thing anyway." Samuel shifted his aim to Tommy, finger tightening on the trigger. For men, one rifle, and his daughter's life hanging in the balance. But as he prepared to make his desperate play, the sound of approaching horses echoed through the night. A full cavalry patrol, riding hard and fast, their weapons gleaming in the moonlight. "Well, well," said a new voice, rich with authority. "Looks like we arrived just in time." The cavalry patrol emerged from the darkness like avenging spirits, their blue uniforms ghostly in the moonlight. At their head rode a man Samuel recognized, Captain Marcus Webb, a career soldier whose reputation for justice was matched only by his intolerance for corruption. "Well, Marshal Crane," Webb said, his voice carrying the weight of absolute authority. "Or should I say, Jeremiah Crane, wanted for murder in 3 territories." The false marshal's face went ashen. "Captain, there's been a misunderstanding. The only misunderstanding is how you convinced anyone you were a lawman." Webb's horse pranced sideways, responding to its rider's controlled fury. "We've been tracking you since Santa Fe. Murder of Father Miguel, the massacre at the Sacred Heart Convent, the killing of Marshal Davidson to steal his badge. Quite a trail of blood you've left." Tommy's gun wavered as he looked between his leader and the soldiers. "Marshal, you said we were working for the government." "Boy's got a point," one of the bounty hunters said, his own weapon lowering. "You told us we were hunting a killer, not playing with fake badges." Samuel felt the moment's balance shifting, saw opportunity in the chaos. "Lucy, baby, come to Papa." Slow and easy. His daughter took a tentative step forward, but Crane's desperation made him dangerous. "Nobody moves," he shouted, drawing his gun with the speed of a rattlesnake. "I've got nothing left to lose." "You're right about that," Webb said calmly. "Drop your weapon, Crane. It's over. Like hell it is." Crane's eyes were wild now, the mask of civilization completely gone. "I didn't come this far to hang for murders I didn't commit alone." "Didn't commit alone?" Catherine's voice cut through the tension like a blade. "You killed my father with your own hands. You strangled Sister Maria when she wouldn't tell you where the gold was hidden. I did what was necessary." Crane's voice cracked. "You want to know the truth? Your precious father wasn't the sink you think he was. He was smuggling guns to the Apache, using church money to fund raids on American settlements." "That's a lie, is it?" Crane laughed bitterly. "Ask Captain Webb. Ask him about the patrol that got massacred last spring. Ask him where those new rifles came from." Samuel saw Webb's face change, saw doubt flicker in the soldier's eyes. The silence stretched taut as a bowstring, filled only by the whisper of wind through the cemetery's weathered stones. Even if that were true, Webb said finally, it doesn't justify what you've done. The women you killed were innocent. Innocent. Crane's gun swung toward Catherine. She knows where the real treasure is. Not gold, weapons. Enough rifles to arm every hostile tribe between here and Mexico. There are no weapons, Catherine said desperately. My father died protecting people, not arming them against. Her words died as Crane's gun exploded. The bullet caught her in the shoulder, spinning her around like a child's toy. She hit the ground hard, her cry of pain echoing off the headstones. Catherine! Samuel's shout tore from his throat as he swung his rifle toward Crane, but the false Marshall was already moving, grabbing Lucy with one arm while keeping his gun trained on the fallen woman. Now we're going to have a real conversation, Crane snarled, pressing the barrel against Lucy's temple, starting with where Miguel Valdez really hid his arsenal. Samuel's vision went red. His daughter's terrified whimpers filled his ears, drowning out reason, drowning out everything except the need to protect her. Let her go. She's just a child. Children grow up to be problems, Crane said. Ask any Indian fighter. Sometimes you have to cut the problem off at the root. You son of a bitch, Papa. Lucy's scream cut through Samuel's rage, bringing him back to the deadly reality. One wrong move, and he'd lose everything that mattered. Captain Webb had his own gun drawn now, but the angle was wrong. Lucy was too close to Crane, too perfect a shield. This ends now, Crane. Release the child. This ends when I get what I came for. Crane's voice was ice and madness. The girl dies unless someone tells me where Miguel hid those weapons. Catherine struggled to sit up, blood spreading across her white habit like spilled wine. There are no weapons. My father never. He was trying to make peace, not war. Then explain this. Crane reached into his coat with his free hand, pulling out a crumpled telegram. Message from Colonel Patterson at Fort Defiance. 3 Apache bands suddenly armed with new repeating rifles. Same rifles that went missing from the Army shipment. Your father was supposed to bless. Samuel felt the world tilt again. If Miguel Valdez had been selling weapons to hostiles, then Catherine was either lying or didn't know the truth about her own father. Either way, innocent people had died. My father was a good man, Catherine whispered, but her voice lacked conviction now. Good men don't get rich selling death, Crane said. And your father died a rich man, didn't he? Rich enough to send you to that fancy convent school in San Antonio. Rich enough to buy silence when questions started getting asked. That's not. He earned that money saying masses, performing marriages, 47 rifles, Catherine. 47 brand new Spencer repeaters, and the Army wants them back. Crane's grip tightened on Lucy, making the child whimper. Now, where did your loving father hide the rest of his inventory? Samuel watched his daughter's face crumple with terror and felt something break inside him. The careful control he'd maintained since Martha's death, the patient endurance that had gotten him through 2 years of grief and struggle, it all shattered. Like glass. I don't care about rifles or treasure or your goddamn war, he said, his voice deadly quiet. Let my daughter go, and I'll give you what you really want. Samuel, no, Catherine gasped. What I really want. Crane's laugh was pure. Madness. And what's that, farmer? Me. Samuel lowered his rifle, let it fall to the ground. You want someone to blame for your failures, someone to make an example of. Take me. Let Lucy go, and I'll tell Webb that I helped Miguel sell those weapons. I'll confess to whatever you want. Papa, no. Lucy's cry broke his heart, but Samuel kept his eyes on Crane. One life for another, he said. Fair trade. Crane considered this, his finger tightening on the trigger. In the distance, thunder rumbled across the desert, and Samuel smelled rain on the wind. Storm coming. Martha had always loved desert storms. The way they transformed the barren landscape into something green and growing. Deal, Crane said finally. But first, someone's going to dig up that box you buried, sister. I want to see what's really inside. Catherine's eyes met Samuel's across the cemetery, and he saw his own desperation reflected there. The box pressed against his ribs like a brand, containing whatever truth Miguel Valdez had died to protect. But as Samuel prepared to reveal the hidden journal, the storm that had been building on the horizon suddenly unleashed its fury. Lightning. split the sky like God's own rifle shot, and in the blinding flash that followed, Samuel saw his chance. Now, he shouted, lunging toward his daughter as the thunder crashed down around them like the end of the world. The lightning turned night into day for one blazing instant. And in that moment of celestial fire, Samuel moved like a man possessed. He dove toward Crane and Lucy as thunder shook the earth, his body a living shield between his daughter and the false marshal's gun. The shot went wide, buried itself in ancient stone as Samuel's shoulder caught Crane in the chest. They went down together in a tangle of limbs and desperation, rolling across the cemetery's hard earth while Lucy scrambled away toward Catherine's outstretched arms. Papa! Lucy's scream tore through the storm's fury. Samuel fought like a man. With nothing left to lose, every blow fueled by 2 years of grief and the primal need to protect what remained of his family. Crane was younger, faster, but Samuel had the strength of absolute purpose. They grappled in the mud, trading punches. That landed like thunder. Captain Webb's soldiers surrounded them, but the fighting was too close, too desperate for a clean shot. Rain began to fall in fat drops that tasted of sage and redemption, turning the cemetery's dust into slick clay. Enough! Webb's voice cut through the chaos. Stand down, both of you. But Crane had found his gun again, was bringing it up toward Samuel's head with trembling hands. In the flickering lightning, his face was a mask of blood and madness. Should have minded your own business, farmer. The shot that followed wasn't Crane's. Catherine knelt by Lucy's side, Samuel's fallen Winchester, smoking in her hands. The bullet had taken Crane's center mass, and he toppled backward into the grave she'd dug, his false badge clattering against the stones. 47 rifles, Catherine said quietly, lowering the weapon. He was right about that much. The storm raged around them as Captain Webb's men secured the scene. Samuel crawled to where Catherine held Lucy, gathering them both into his arms as rain washed the blood and dirt from their faces. Is it over, Papa? Lucy whispered. It's over, baby. Samuel kissed his daughter's forehead, tasting salt and rain. And the promise of tomorrow. The bad men are gone. Catherine pulled the metal box from Samuel's coat with shaking hands. You should see what's really inside, she said to Captain Webb. What my father died trying to protect. Webb took the box, opened it carefully. Inside, nestled among rosary beads and pressed flowers, lay Miguel Valdez's journal. But there were other papers too, bills of sale, receipts, correspondence with army quartermasters. Jesus, Webb breathed, reading by lightning flash. Your father wasn't selling weapons to the Apache. He was buying them back. What? Catherine's voice was barely a whisper. Look at these dates. Every rifle listed here. He purchased them from traders and gunrunners, then turned them over to the army. Webb's voice filled with wonder. 47 rifles, 300 rounds of ammunition, 2 cases of army Colts. He spent his own money, his life savings, keeping weapons away from hostile tribes. Catherine began to cry then, great shuddering sobs that seemed to come from the depths of her soul. He never told me. All those months when he barely ate, when he sold everything we owned. I thought we were just poor. He was protecting you, Samuel said gently, same way he was protecting everyone else. The rain was falling harder now, washing the desert clean. In the distance, Samuel could hear the storm moving east, carrying with it the violence and bloodshed of the last few hours. What remained was silence and the sound of water finding its way into thirsty ground. There's more, Webb said, still reading. Letters from missionaries throughout the territory, thanking your father for his work. He wasn't just buying back weapons, he was negotiating peace treaties, establishing trade agreements, finding ways for settlers and tribes to coexist. The Apache bands with new rifles, Catherine said slowly. They weren't hostile, were they? No. They were the ones your father convinced to stop raiding, to try farming instead. The rifles were for hunting, for protecting their families from real threats. Webb closed the journal carefully. Your father may have saved more lives than any soldier in the territory. Lucy stirred in Samuel's arms, looking up at Catherine with wide, curious eyes. Are you really an angel? Catherine's laugh was broken but beautiful. No, sweetheart. I'm just a woman who lost her way. Papa says everyone gets lost sometimes, but family helps you find your way home. Samuel felt his heart expand, felt the walls he'd built around it since Martha's death finally crumble. Catherine met his eyes over Lucy's head, and in her gaze he saw not the desperate fugitive from the cemetery, but a woman who'd fought to honor her father's memory, who'd been willing to die rather than let innocent people suffer. "Where will you go now?" he asked quietly. "I don't know. The convent won't take me back, not after everything that's happened. I'm not even sure I want to be a nun anymore." Catherine touched Lucy's hair gently. "I spent so long trying to atone for imaginary sins that I forgot how to live." "Papa," Lucy said solemnly, "can Miss Catherine come home with us? She looks sad, and Mama always said we should help sad people." Samuel looked at his daughter, then at Catherine, then at the storm-washed cemetery where new grass was already beginning to sprout between the ancient stones. The desert had a way of blooming after rain, of finding life in the most barren places. "I think," he said carefully, "your mama would like that very much." Catherine's eyes filled with fresh tears. "Samuel, I can't ask you to. You're not asking. Lucy is." Samuel stood, helping Catherine to her feet. "And she's got her mama's wisdom about people. If she says you belong with us, then you belong with us." As the storm moved on and dawn began to paint the eastern sky pink and gold, Samuel led his expanding family away from the cemetery. Behind them, Captain Webb's men were already filling in the grave that had been meant for Catherine, turning it into just another patch of desert earth where wildflowers would bloom come spring. "Look, Papa!" Lucy pointed to the horizon where the first rays of sunlight were breaking through the clouds, the skies making rainbows. And it was great arcs of color stretching across the desert, painting the world in shades of hope and new beginnings. Samuel felt Catherine's hand slip into his, warm and certain, and knew that Martha would approve of the woman who'd helped him remember that love wasn't something you lost when someone died, but something that grew stronger when you found the courage to open your heart again. That if this tale of desert storms and second chances touched your heart, friend, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts below. Sometimes the most beautiful roses grow in the harshest ground. Drop a comment and let us know where you're watching from today. Whether you're in God's country or the concrete jungle, we'd love to hear from you.